Okay, go ahead.
Okay, you all, I'd like to call this a special meeting of the Board of Education and open workshop on May 22nd to order. Before we get into our policies, we have a few motions to approve for minutes. I move to approve the minutes from the special meeting and open session dated March 13, 2025. Yeah, second. Blair seconded. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that is a 4-0. I move to approve the minutes from the special meeting in open session dated April 14, 2025. Can I get a
Second.
second? Okay, Ali second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's 4-0. Thanks. Okay, moving on to policy 3537, the promotion policy. Um, and let's see who we have on. Cindy, do you want to go ahead and start to talk about the changes for the promotion policy?
Sure. Good evening. Petra, would you like me to start?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. Jesse, would you be able to share the slides? I just put a couple of slides together that I think will help us kind of understand the changes that we're going through. So, good evening, everybody. And hoping Maya, can you hear me okay? Just making sure before I start. Okay, thank you. So as mentioned, the first policy that we are bringing forth to the Board of Education for review and eventual approval is our policy related to promotion. The number is 3537. And a few reasons for the rationale of why we want to make changes and adjustments to this policy is first, we are required under Wisconsin Reads, which we formerly know as Act 20, is mandating all school districts to adopt a new third to fourth grade promotion policy as of July 1st, 2025. This aligns to the Act 20 literacy work that our district has been doing. And so while we were afforded this opportunity to make these changes, we thought it was a good opportunity to also realign all of our policies that are connected to state statutes for promotion. And with that, we wanted to ensure that we are creating efficiencies and reducing the number of policies that are all connected to the same topic. We also want to move to a more proactive policy, and we want to ensure that we're unifying our communications with families. Currently, as a reminder, we have an on track to graduation plan that requires communication to families. We have a promotion from 8th to 9th grade, and we have a promotion from 4th to 5th. So this policy will be what I would call an umbrella policy, and it will be all encompassing for all of the transition grades that we're required to have promotion criteria underneath. Next slide, please, Jesse. So in addition to everything that I just mentioned, a little more in detail around some of the specific changes. We are, as I said, wanting to have a one umbrella policy that has everything that is the same topic in 3537. We have had to make some changes, state statute changes for our fourth and eighth grade promotion policy, most specifically changing alignment to current state assessments and other requirements. As I mentioned before, the Wisconsin Reads were required to have a promotion policy for third to fourth grade. And then we wanted to also take this opportunity to adjust our language to ensure our language was gender inclusive while we were making those changes. So those are kind of the pieces related to this policy, kind of from a big picture standpoint. We have a redlined copy of the actual policy in the board docs for you, as well as a clean version. So Jessica, could you take us off screen share for these slides for right this minute? And so I don't know if it's helpful to see the red line policy up on the screen, Maya. I see you shaking yes. Okay. Jesse, are you able to pull up the red line policy?
Yep.
Thank you so much. So this is what you're seeing in front of you is the current 3537 with the red line. Again, in some of the narrative, it is changing language. It's being more specific around criteria for promotion and also indicating what you will see below. Could you scroll down, Jesse, for me? Much of this is crossed off because we have made changes to the overall policy to be proactive, to align across our system. Here comes state statute language. And then it's organized into these 3 sections. If you could pause right here, Jesse, for 1 second. Thank you so much. It's organized into our on track to graduation, our 8th to 9th grade promotion, and our 3rd to 4th and 4th to 5th promotion. Each one of these sections has similar content, but has different expectations. And so we chunked it out that way. Overall, streamlining, having the same type of communication for all families and really trying to think about other ways that we're ensuring we're proactive. The one other thing that I will call attention to is this is all about promotion and it is not about retention. We know the research says that retention is not beneficial for students. DPI has also put out pretty strong language about the research as it relates to promotion versus retention. And so the safety nets and the supports that we currently provide and what we're going to continue to strengthen in the district will be some of the content below. I'll pause there, and Petra, I don't know if there's anything you would like to add in. Otherwise, I can Maya can keep scrolling, but I'll turn it over to you, Petra, for a minute.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cindy. I think one thing I'd like to elevate is just that much of the language that we've used in rewriting this policy is coming directly from DPI itself. They released a model policy. And so the language that you're seeing here is consistent with what DPI is expecting school districts to adopt. And I would also underscore, and I know Cindy already touched on it, under PI 25, which deals with at-risk youth, MMSD frames that as being on track to graduation, and there's an actual program that is linked to in the policy. And so that framing is really embodying, I think, the way that MMSD is approaching this. And so I just wanted to elevate that because I know that was important as staff were, different stakeholders were reviewing the policy.
Thank you, Petra. And so just as Petra indicated, we tried to take the language that DPI put into their model policy and make the changes here as well. Jesse, would you mind scrolling down a little just so that we can continue to go through components? All of this is part of our on track to graduation, which is, as Petra mentioned, PI 25 that the board has seen in the past in terms of the plan that exists for that and the supports that we provide for students based on those indicators. The next is our 8th to 9th grade promotion. And again, this language is aligning to district DPI expectations. What you'll notice that is different from our previous policy is the naming of the Wisconsin Forward. For a few years now, we've had to make some adjustments based on the previous policy and past state statute that did not indicate the state required assessments. So that is an addition in here. And then 3rd to 4th and 4th to 5th are also used based on the DPI models that were provided. And what is new in this section that would probably not be familiar to the Board of Education is the 3rd to 4th, which is all part of the new Act 20/Wisconsin Reads and the work that we've been doing as a district around students' personalized reading plans. And if they don't meet the 25% or higher proficiency threshold for the literacy screeners, that then they would be required to attend a summer program with supports and then be promoted to the following grade with continued supports. And Jesse, if you would just, keep scrolling. Much of this is about our processes around communications and expectations for that. And then this last part is related to after students are promoted, what we will still ensure happens to make sure students are supported and are successful through graduation for us. So it is a long policy. And the reason, again, as I said in the beginning, it is long is because we wanted to have a singular policy that encompassed all of the transition grades that we have to be paying attention to for promotion, and so that we were syncing up and aligning our communication and our processes internally, so we're not having different processes, different communications based on level. So Jesse, I think you could take us off screen share. And Board Member Pearson, I will turn it to you to see if there's questions from the board that Petra and I can try and answer and respond to.
Yeah, thank you for that thorough explanation of the policy in itself, but also what we were trying to do in trying to put things together and make it more succinct. Ollie, go ahead.
In terms of our English language learners who are often taking exams related to a variety of areas, but not in their first language, and can be kind of anywhere in the process of learning English at any point in time throughout their K-12 experience, how do we factor in, one, the education that they had previously to joining us at MMSD, if they're a student who is traveling internationally or moving internationally? How do we allow them to maintain the skills that they have in their first language? And if a child is advanced or really, really highly skilled at reading and writing in a language that we don't necessarily teach, what do we do to support that young person? And then how do we make sure that that young person is not maybe like is given the ability to accurately demonstrate their skills, even though there may be a language barrier in a variety of areas of their education?
Yeah, thank you, Board Member Muldrow, for that question. I would say that that is why we were really specific in this policy and named our English learners. We named students with IEPs. Two things that are important from a DPI standpoint, especially as it comes to Wisconsin Reads or Act 20, it is an English-only policy, and they focus only on instruction in English and assessment in English. However, I think you all know we as a school district deeply value students that are multilingual and bilingual. And so for us, we definitely are continuing to ensure that we're focused on students' proficiency in both English and in Spanish and or Hmong, whatever other language they may be using. And so I think to answer your question, two things that are important. This is why this is a promotion policy. This is not a retention policy. We want to ensure that students are continuing through their schooling and matriculating through grades. And what you'll see in here is similar to what is called a PRP, or a personalized reading plan. These individualized plans will be revised and rewritten for students as they go up into the grades, so that we can ensure that we're adding in additional supports and wraparound where needed, whether that's social emotional and or whether that's acceleration, right? If students need to accelerate, that we're still thinking about the continuum of services for our students students. And so that's part of why this policy is a little lengthier, because we wanted to be really clear that it isn't just about we're going to pass you to the next grade, but we are trying to ensure that we're putting in explicit supports for students on both ends of the continuum so that students are able to thrive. And back to this point that you made around English learners, ensuring that we're supporting students with developing the skills in both languages.
Holly, did that answer your question? Perfect. Thank you. Blair?
Can you speak to a little bit about the like ongoing conversation we've been having about policy versus procedure? Because it is long and it has a lot of like, first this group is gonna meet and then this group is gonna meet. And so I was just hoping you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I'll start, and I think I'll turn this over to Petra. I think this one was hard to separate some of the steps that go into promotion without adding in more of the processes that we have to follow as a school district, because they intertwine. This idea of communication is a requirement that DPI has us, and for us, communication is also part of our processes as well as the policy. And so I think that you will see this maybe gray area that looks like it is steps to procedures, because of the way DPI's model policy wanted to ensure that the steps were beyond, like I said to board member Muldrow, the steps were beyond just like this, we're passing you to the next grade, but we're ensuring that we're putting in the supports as well. But I'll turn it over to Petra to see if she wants to add to that.
I agree with everything Cindy said. The only thing that I would add would be, I think that because of how much is required under state statute, I suspect, but I don't know, that might be one reason why DPI actually released a model policy, is probably for that, you know, very tension between policy and procedure, and knowing that districts would likely need greater guidance with regards to this and what's required under statute.
Okay, and then from the procedures standpoint, let's imagine the third grade team would have documentation from CNI about like who should be on the team and how often that team should meet and which button to click in EduClimber and all of that stuff separately. Okay.
Yeah, correct. And with all of that is things that we were able to start this year, which were requirements beyond the policy for Act 20, but what we call the personalized reading plans and what carries on, and all of the things you know and just mentioned are also our guidance, if you will, that lives above and beyond all of these components.
Okay, great. And that makes perfect sense, because imagine we start using a different software. Why have that in policy? Okay, great. That helps me understand. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Blair, for asking that. Because that was actually my question too. And I know that Cindy, Sabian, is your hand up? Okay, go ahead, Sabian.
Thank you. My one question is, can you just talk about what goes into the personalized reading plan for the K-5 students?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So the personalized reading plan is really a support plan that tracks and monitors the interventions that students might be receiving, the progress they've made on that, maybe scaffolds that the teacher has put in place for reading instruction in the classroom, and then the communication that happens with the family as well. So it really is a kind of documented support plan plus kind of an intervention tracking tool, I think is the best way to describe that.
Okay, thank you. My one follow-up is, if a student is kind of on the edge of promotion or not and under serious consideration, what will folks look for in the PRP? Not to make up a new acronym, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think a lot of it is based on, and we stated in the policy, is where a family comes into play as well around the communication. And where a family might recommend that they would want their student to repeat a grade due to either the performance of the student, maybe it's also connected to the social emotional maturity of the student. But from our standpoint, from the district standpoint, we recommend promotion with supports, but there is some language in here that talks about in the event that a family were to request a retention or being held back, what that process would look like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Martha?
Yeah, I was trying to read through and find out how about the students who don't take state tests? Because there's a lot of reliance on using that to track. And the ones that who don't, I mean, sometimes they're students with IEPs are sometimes in there, but that just can be any parent who chooses to opt their child out of taking them specifically. And I'm wondering, since you said this is proactive, is there something also being brought in like proactively, like tutoring, instead of putting more expectations upon the classroom teacher to do the additional work with the student when they notice that they need
Yeah.
intervention?
Well, I'll answer both questions. I'll start with the first one. So the first one indicates that if the student was excused or did not take the state exam, we also look at academic performance, we look at recommendations from the teacher, and we take other components into consideration for that. So that's kind of the answer when students are not, for whatever reason, don't take the state exam. In terms of your second question around tutors, yeah, so I would say we have interventionists in every one of our schools. So that is probably one of the first places that we would have the interventionist support. They have a caseload of students. We have tutors in our school in a variety of ways. I think the future of kind of what tutors and where we have will just be, it's an ongoing conversation just on changes beyond our control, but we do have tutors that we use. We have volunteers as well. Anyone that works with our students, especially in the area of reading, goes through training related to the science of reading, because we want to make sure that they are equipped with the tools and resources to support students. So those are some of the ways that we provide it beyond. We also have some intervention materials, whether they're web-based, computer-based, physical copies, we have that as well. So those are some of the things that go, without going through an exhaustive list, but those are some of the ways outside of the classroom teacher.
I guess I would have two questions just kind of with that. When you say academic performance, are you speaking to tests or grade, like homework? Because sometimes there are, like when you get through to the high schools, what I'm getting feedback on is that sometimes tests are like one of the only ways you can capture what the student is, what is being, just the only way to capture their grade point, or or where they're going to get most of their grade from, as opposed to daily homework. So what does academic performance mean?
Yeah, so we as a district have defined academic performance as student grades in those content areas. So whether it's literacy, biliteracy, or math. And so we look at the academic performance based on their grades. And depending on the time of notification, we look at the semester grade at the high school level. We would look at the quarter grade at middle school, and we would probably look at the semester grade at elementary as well. But that's how we've defined academic performance before.
I guess the second one I was going to quick ask then in conjunction with that is, is there going to be something that's suggestively more proactive than around the intervention that goes in there? Or is that also just going to just be that we have the same expectations?
Could you say more on what you mean?
Do we have an expectation that we're going to be more proactive when offering the interventions early, or in a different way when they're needed? I don't know. It sounds like this is more being proactive. So I'm just thinking of another proactive means, like, is that going to be also seen in another way?
Yeah, so interventions right now and probably will continue, start as soon as we provide screeners to our students. And so students are screened the first couple weeks of the school year for the first time. Students that are identified may also get a diagnostic assessment after that to really drill down to the potential skills. And then usually by the first week of October, I would say, give or take, you know, how the smoothly school year may begin, students will then start intervention groups and small groups, sometimes just in the classroom. It just depends on the level of need for students. But that happens really within the first quarter of a school year. And then, as I mentioned, through this personalized reading plan, that is monitored along the way. Sometimes, you know, it's a fluid group. Sometimes students stay in a group. Sometimes students exit a group. Sometimes students need a different intervention depending on the progress they're making. So it's really a fluid process.
Thank you.
Thank you all for those questions. Any other questions for Cindy or Petra relating to this first read of this policy? Okay, I'm at the strategic planning session, so you guys probably hear it in the background, so sorry. Okay. So seeing no other folks that want to ask questions, then I guess thank you, Cindy, for and Petra for working on this. I know that it was something that we needed to do before, I believe, June, right? And so excited that we got that together. And then so this would be considered the first read of this one, and we will bring it back. So if there's any questions from this time on, definitely make sure to ask us, and we can try our best to answer them and or discuss it to try to figure out if there are some edits that need to be had. And so thank you all. And then going to policy 4406, homeless education program and TEP. Cindy, will you be tackling this one? I don't see.
Yep, I'm doing both.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Only other thing I would say, thank you, Board Member Pearson, for that. We hope to get both of these policies, the one you'll see in just a second, back for your second read at the June 2nd instruction work group, just so people have a time frame of that. And then, as mentioned, the promotion policy, the board needs to approve on or before July 1st. So, voting on that at the June 23rd board meeting would be the goal. I think that's the date. Okay.
My
Okay,
birthday.
I'm so sorry, Blair. I mean,
My
board member.
birthday, the June 23rd
Oh,
board meeting. We're gonna
all
have
right.
cake.
Wonderful. Jesse, could you share the slides again, please? Okay, so the second policy that you are seeing tonight is policy 4406, which is currently titled our homeless education policy. And the main reasons, and I'll walk through some details, the main reason for this policy is the McKinney-Vento law under ESSA changed in 2015. And so we need to update this. We've been asked by DPI, and we need to update this to align to the McKinney-Vento Act. And we're really doing it to ensure legal compliance and also to really ensure that this policy aligns with our district core values. We've created some clarity as it goes with language as it relates to both the policy and also compliance. We've really tried to focus on some equity as it relates to access and inclusion. We've strengthened our support and updated language for what it means to be an unaccompanied youth. We've also tried to really ensure that this policy maintains continuity and stability for students as it relates to their educational experience. Also tried to ensure that this policy aligns with some of the supports that our staff need in order to ensure stability and continuity for students in education. And then also to create some additions that were needed where there were some gaps in the policy. Jesse, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. Okay, so as you can see here, we updated definitions and updated language. We removed the language of awaiting foster care that's just no longer eligible under the 2015 McKinney-Vento Act. We tried to ensure that we were using gender inclusive and student-centered language. We expanded the liaison responsibilities to ensure that professional development was happening, and I'll talk about kind of the professional development that we've really been working on over the last few years to ensure it includes early childhood and IDEA coordination. That was really essential for us. We've really tried to strengthen our enrollment protections, meaning that students are automatically enrolled, that they do not have to wait, including co-curriculars. That was something that was needing to be adjusted in this policy. Youth can self-enroll if needed, if they are unaccompanied, and then required follow-up to secure missing documentation. That's essential that we do that, but that would not uphold someone's ability to enroll immediately into school. We also made changes to unaccompanied youth rights. They can excuse themselves as needed and sign documentations. They can receive surrogate parent support for IEP or 504s if needed, and they're recognized as an independent for higher education financial aid, which also was something that was really important and aligns with the McKinney-Vento Act. Next slide, please, Jesse. Transportation clarifications. Within the policy, we wanted to ensure it was uber clear around transportation. And this is about ensuring that even if you have secured housing during the school year and you still need transportation, that your transportation can be continuous through the remainder of that school year. That goes back to what I had indicated about continuity and educational experiences and services for students. We want to ensure students are not getting any breaks due to the McKinney, due to homelessness or lack of housing. There's some cost sharing that happens across our districts that we wanted to ensure was clarified. There's a dispute process in the event that a family or an accompanied youth wants to dispute something. There's a really clear guidance about how to do that. We thought that was important, and you learn by doing. We've seen that come up a few times, so we wanted to make sure that that was added, included in the policy. And then it's just organized and it's more clear to read. And again, this policy, we believe, is really important for the family, the community, anyone that might need to ever take advantage of what is in our policy. We wanted to make sure that it was easy to understand, easy to read, and organized. And then I'll just reiterate, similar to the promotion policy, just updating and making sure that our language was inclusive. I think that's the last slide, Jesse. And so now what I'll do real quick, like I did for the other one, if Jesse, if you could pull up the red line, we could just walk through the actual policy and you can see some of the changes in the red line. Could you slow down? I'm slow down. Jesse, could you scroll a little? So you'll see here definitions. We were making sure that definitions were clear. As I had mentioned before, we took out this awaiting foster care placement. That's old language that was pre 2015 McKinney-Vento. Could you keep scrolling? This next section is about, you can see unaccompanied youth. We wanted to make sure that that definition was clear. Changing school of origin. We wanted to make sure this creates educational stability as well. A lot of this other language was taken out because it falls under the new definitions that we have. We made changes, as I mentioned, for the homeless liaison. Added language here. A lot of this is a specific from McKinney-Vento Act, so we added in language, which is all really more in support of the student and or the family that may be in housing insecurity. Homelessness students of any age can enroll. This is what I mentioned before. You can keep going. Can you pause right there? This indicates about the processes once a student is enrolled, but that we don't have to wait for paperwork and other things in order to enroll the students. We want to get the student into their educational services right away. Keep scrolling, Jesse, please. That's all taken out. This is all redlined. You could pause right here. This is again just organizing this in terms of some of the services. A little added language. It hits at ESL. I changed it to EL. This talks about the access to athletics and all of that. Health, summer school. This next section is all on transportation. And so you'll see that there is some added language. There isn't a complete overhaul. And most of this, again, is based on what I indicated and ensuring it aligns with the 2015 McKinney-Vento Act. This right here, I'll just call out. This is what I mentioned about if the family and or the student get stable housing throughout the school year, they can still stay at that school of origin. And if they need to, they can still receive transportation services through the end of the year. We would not cut that off so that the student is able to continue to maintain continuity. This continues to go into unaccompanied youth. And then this is about the resolution and the disputes if they need to dispute something, and appeals. So this is also a policy that is very long, but this one is directly aligned to the McKinney-Vento Act of 2015 under ESSA, and also some language from DPI. So it's all part of alignment to the laws. If you want to take us off screen share, Jesse, and then Board Member Pearson, I think, oh, Petra, do you want to add anything before I turn it back? Sorry.
You hit all the points so wonderfully, Cindy. I would just also add that this was revised in conjunction with DPI, and so we received real-time feedback from DPI, and everything that's in here was approved by DPI.
Yep, thank you for mentioning that. Board Member Pearson, Board Chair, Board Vice President, sorry, Pearson.
Thank
Back to you.
All right. It is Thursday. We're almost done with the week. Any questions about this proposal of a policy? Like the last one, it is a lot of information and a lot of to kind of take in all at once. Blair, I think I see you.
Yeah, I'm assuming that the addition of the students living in trailer parks is coming from the revised law.
I'm so sorry. Can you say that again? I did not hear you. All I heard was law.
Sorry. At the very, very beginning, one of the additions, 1B of defining a homeless child or youth includes students who are living in trailer parks.
Mhm.
What's up with that?
I'm gonna look through my notes right now and see if I
Okay.
can address it. Otherwise, I can circle back.
Okay, no problem.
As she does that, Cindy, did you want to respond? It looks like you're about to say something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, I think that's part of McKinney-Vento, and I think because there could be where that is not permanent housing, that might be temporary housing, and so I think that is why that's in there as well, Blair. But I think Petra checking that, but I'm pretty sure that's part of exactly how McKinney-Vento defines that.
Yep, it's in there. I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah.
It comes from McKinney-Vento. Got it.
Thank you, Blair. Savian?
Yeah, can you speak to how we define a homeless student? And then can you speak to how school-based staff go about, because sometimes folks don't know that they're homeless. So can you speak to how school-based staff go about like approaching students who they may suspect, and how they let them know that these services are available for them?
Yeah, thank you. So that's one thing I said I was going to mention and I forgot to mention. So the last few years we have spent a significant amount of time doing training with our staff, most specifically with our social workers. We will require all staff to go through McKinney-Vento training at the beginning of the year when we have welcome back. And then our social workers have more in-depth training. And so our social workers are really that main point of contact to look for signs, to have those communications. But it is also partially reliant upon families to let us know that as well, with confidentiality and with privacy. And so a lot of that information, if a family is enrolling or if a student or family happen to become homeless or have housing insecurity throughout the school year, they work with the social worker. And so we try and ensure families know that that's their point of contact. But that is the main person that works with them to maintain confidentiality and to ensure they have all of the resources. I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, there was much more of a heavy reliance on our staff at central office, and social workers didn't have, it's not that they didn't have the tools, they didn't have all of the information necessary, and it's something that the team has really worked on to ensure every social worker in our system is well versed and well equipped with the McKinney-Vento Act and the supports necessary.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that, and we'll take the time to also shout out all the school sites out there as well, open as well.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Savian. Anyone else have any questions about this one? Okay, I did have just a quick question. The language that we're using, homeless versus unhoused, is there like a particular, is it just that when we use the verbiage homeless, that is just based off of best practices, I guess?
Yeah, I think this is also straight from both what we got from DPI and from the McKinney-Vento Act. And so that language comes straight from there.
Okay. And then my other question, just really quick, how are we looking to, like, I know that this is just really in alignment with the changes for McKinney-Vento and some of the other like federal laws and such, and then also kind of in alignment with DPI, but how are we addressing students who wouldn't necessarily be considered homeless under the McKinney-Vento, but are like couch surfing or kind of like moving like through other housing, but technically isn't unhoused per se, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one, back to what I said around the training with our social workers and us trying to add in language to really make this more expansive for housing insecurity. But to that question, that for an unaccompanied youth would be defined under here if they don't have a permanent address or they don't have stable housing. And so couch surfing is not stable housing. And so that would fall under here to receive the supports and resources as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that. Okay. Any other questions regarding the proposed policy 4406? Okay, so again, thank you, team, and thank you, board, for your questions. And if you have other questions as we go through the process, we'll try to bring this back at a future. I think it's also the one that we're gonna do at the instruction work group as a second read. So if there are any questions from there to now, well, from now to then, please let us know. Okay.
Yeah, this one also we're hoping is approved before July 1st as well. So it will come back June 2nd. So if there, thank you for sharing. If there's questions, we'll take them.
Okay. So moving along to policy 1540, expectations of school board members. And so if you all remember, what we did was the original 1504 had it was pretty long, it was pretty clunky. And what we decided a while back was, sorry, 1540. What we decided back was to kind of split it off into its own subsections. We had our first read, and so this would be considered our second read. And so we parsed out and made edits based off of our first conversation for these next three policies. So we have 1540. And one of the things that we made sure that we did was to be more gender neutral. And so we did remove or replace most of the gendered language and adjust it to be neutral. And then we moved, hold on. Okay, let's just do 1540. Sorry, because I'm going into all of them, what we did for all of them. So you will see here the second read red lines based off of our last conversation, and then you'll see what the proposed policy is now, the clean version of it. And so, yeah. Petra, do you want to add anything about 1540 specifically? Not the other two, but just 1540.
Yeah, I think just to provide Martha a little bit more background since you weren't here for the first read, I'd just like to indicate too that anything that you see that was struck with the red line through it, that is captured in the other two policies that we'll talk through next. So job description of a school board member and then conflict of interest. And not to speak for the board, but my understanding is that that was done just to sort of organize the different topics so it's more easily accessible when looking through the policies. And then I would just also note that at the bottom, you'll see a statutory citation. That was something that was requested at the first read. And so on this one and then the other two policies, you'll see all the relevant statutes listed at the bottom too.
Thank you, Petra. I had to I forgot that Martha, you are new with us. So we worked on this last year. And we had our first official read earlier this year, and then here's our second read. So yeah, any questions about the updated 1540, which previously was called ethics? 1540. Go ahead, Sabian.
Yeah, this looks good to me. I remember when we came up with it, and so I hope it's of use, Martha, as you're onboarded onto the role and for all future board members. I guess in theory it could be an evolving document that we should revisit to make sure it's still relevant. Otherwise, looks good, and thank you.
Thank you, Sabian. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Ali.
Yeah, I want to ask Petra about the role of the board in terms of the description as it relates to the board's role in relationship to budget policy and our relationship specifically to the superintendent. I also want to talk about how, or ask you to explain a little bit of how the policy represents the board as elected officials and our relationship to the community and our constituents.
Was there something specific that you were looking to have included in the policy that you're not seeing? Or could you maybe a little bit more specifically, just so I understand what we can
No,
maybe add or consider?
No, I was just really wondering how those things are fleshed out in the policy, and I'm sorry if I'm missing it.
Sure. I'm just taking a beat to review. Do you remember, Maya? I know that we had discussed this at our policy committee meeting.
Yeah, so the ways of working, the ways of working is just more so just the expectations as a board member and how we're working together and then with the administration. And I think what we'll see is that the job description of the school board member will have more of those pieces that will have like directly related to the actual work that we do as a school board member. And so that was one of the reasons why we parsed it out, was because it seemed kind of just, there were just so many different parts of it. But yes, the job description, and that's the next one we'll look at, that has more specifics of the actual work that we do. If that makes sense.
I think it makes sense. I think like our ways of working should be dictated by the work that we do. And so I would hope to see the work of governance really reflected in our ways of working, and the work of representing the community really reflected in our ways of working. I also think like, you know, distinguishing the board's roles from other roles in the district is relevant, and defining that role and making sure our ways of working are in alignment with what we are actually elected to do. And so I think I don't think it hurts to reinforce the areas that are relevant to the board's work within our ways of working. However, I think the description of the board's role, you know, can vary. I do think the board employs our administration, so we're not coworkers and we're not like paralleled colleagues, but we're actually the body of governance that determines how that expertise is brought into the district, and facilitates that, like facilitates the process of hiring our administration, our superintendent, who then leads our administration. And I do think clarity around that makes sense. Yeah, I think that that's my feedback in relationship to our ways of working as policy. In terms of our policy in relationship to conflict of interest, is that something we're speaking to in terms of our ways of working?
So the conflict of interest we parse out as its own policy.
Policy?
Yep. And so previously it used to be all under one. So all the work, like the job description of like what we do, the ways of working, and then also with the conflict of interest used to just be that ethics 1540. But we as a board decided to parse them out specifically so that it's a lot clearer for each piece. Instead of trying to read a very long policy and that was clunky. So it is its own proposed policy. And that's the one that we'll review in a couple. But is there something, are you looking for to have more of a reference maybe in
No,
the way
I
of
was
working?
really thinking about like ways of working as it relates to disclosure of conflict of interest, and how board members self-identify conflict of interest specific to both their personal life and their professional reality. I think it's fine to take one policy and turn it into three policies. I think like there is also the argument that it doesn't necessarily need to be an internal policy, because state statute already dictates relationships to conflict of interest and disclosure of conflict of interest. So, I mean, I do think we could save ourselves time and energy and use state statute as the standard in relationship to it.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. I know in the conflict of interest, it has the state statutes that are specific to it. So they are referenced there. But thank you. So I know Ali like expounded on all three a little bit and how they kind of connect with each other. Um, is there any question specifically for the 1540? Or yeah.
I think I'll just say something I've said multiple times when we've been looking at these three, is that I still feel a little bit lost in terms of the expectations of how we use our email accounts, our email accounts. I don't necessarily think it has to be in this policy, but I'm going on 2 years as a board member and still feel uncertain about expectations and process. So just throwing that out there.
Thank you, Blair. Any thoughts? Go ahead, Petra.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, with regards to email, were there any like specific concerns, that you had with regards to email?
I don't know if this is the right venue on
Okay.
a day that we have 4 board meetings. Maybe I'll ask a different day.
That's totally fair, Blair. And we can talk later. Any other questions about 1540? Sorry, y'all, if you guys are hearing my background noise. Okay, so it looks like there's no other questions about policy at 1540. Again, we can, if folks have questions or need to talk through points, definitely feel free to do that. Because there's no changes right now, we would hopefully come back at the regular board meeting, the next regular board meeting, to approve this one. In that meantime, again, if there are any changes, we can definitely let folks know as well. Okay, moving on to the new policy job description for a school board member. Any questions about this one more specifically? Okay. I think folks are marinating, or any questions, or folks are good. I don't know. Can I get a thumbs up? Okay. We got Savian. Okay, Blair. I know, Martha, this is also very new. So again, between this point and us bringing it back to the full board meeting, regular board meeting for approval, like feel free to ask questions at that time, okay?
I'm okay with us moving on to the next one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, last one, conflict of interest. The new proposed policy. And so this is where we have at the bottom, only if you see that, we just have we have the statutes at the bottom of it, that's referencing it. And again, this one, the only biggest change that we made last time was changing, making the language, gender neutral. Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up that I think we're good. We're good. Ollie, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like I already spoke to this one.
Okay, cool beans. Okay, y'all, that is the last policy to review in this special meeting, and I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Y'all have a nice night.
Okay, so moved by Ali, seconded by, I think Blair raised her hand. All those in favor of adjournment. Okay, passes
Sorry.
0.
Thanks
ahead.
for working on this, Maya. Martha, do you want to stay on after we go offline, or grab another Zoom if you want to check in? Since it's so much.
Yeah, that would be good.